Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are here to talk about what not only happened this weekend, but also what happened tonight with the Jets and Chargers. Now, I want to let you know how I watched the game. About the first quarter and a half, I was at the gym. Then I drove home from the gym right before halftime. Now, that about 10 minutes that I did not watch the game in the first half was probably the best 10 minutes of the first half. And then in the second half, I was making dinner, watching the game at the same time. And then there was about a 10-minute stretch where I went and walked the dog and did not watch this game. And that 10 minutes that I was not watching the game was probably the best 10 minutes of the second half. Horrendous football. Like, why the hell are we watching Jets on primetime? I mean, I understand, yes, I get it. You thought you were going to have Rodgers, and yes, I get it. You scheduled the Jets to have a bunch of primetime games, and we get stuck with Zach Wilson. But nonetheless, can we not, as soon as Rodgers goes down, realize, Zach Wilson's a bottom 3 quarterback in the NFL. Can we find someone else? Okay, can we flex, say, the Seahawks-Ravens game to Monday night and instead just throw Zach Wilson on a 1 p.m. Eastern? What's funny is Zach Wilson is a primetime game next week as well. Like, this is just what happened with the Denver Broncos last year, where the NFL was so excited to go through and show everybody the new Denver Broncos with Russell Wilson. And then we ended up watching that train wreck all last season. Same thing happening here. Now, from a fantasy football perspective, a couple different things with the Chargers. One, I understand Justin Herbert gives you nothing. Super frustrating. Justin Herbert, 136 passing yards, 0 touchdowns. He gets 17 rushing. Justin Herbert, really disappointing in fantasy. Do we need to dramatically lower Justin Herbert down our rankings? Probably not, right? This wasn't a football game. The New York Jets could not effectively move the ball down the field. They didn't have to throw the ball in Los Angeles. With that being said, Austin Eckler does have multiple rushing touchdowns. Eckler does have 7 targets out of this backfield. Keenan Allen dominates. Keenan Allen, 9 targets, 8 receptions, 77 receiving yards. Our pick'em on Underdog for tonight. Keenan Allen, more than 6.5 receptions. That hit, even though it was a horrible situation with the overall game environment. But I do have to flex on y'all. But yeah, Keenan had over like 50% of the receiving volume here. And now y'all know in the video earlier this morning, we were talking about Quentin Johnston being an interesting pickup with Joshua Palmer. Quentin Johnston looks like it's not happening regardless. So RIP everybody with Quentin Johnston. Now going over to the Jets side of things, you have 49 passing attempts from Zach Wilson. So the target numbers here are going to be a little bit skewed. You do have 4 targets for Breece Hall. Breece Hall, kind of saves his day in a full BBR format. He gets you 10 fantasy points, which is better than what you could assume, from a lot of other running backs in this situation. Going over to what we have with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson still startable despite how bad Zach Wilson is. Garrett Wilson has 13 targets, 7 receptions, 80 receiving yards. So yeah, not much changes for the Jets. Obviously, we knew this team was very bad beforehand. This team's going to be very bad going forward. You're still starting Breece Hall. You're still starting Garrett Wilson off of volume. But I think that should be about it for the game. Like, what else do we have to talk about? Don't panic on Justin Herbert. Keenan's going to be great. Eckler's going to be great. We were probably wrong to say pick up Quentin Johnston off waivers. If you put in a claim, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to cancel it. And then also start Breece Hall, start Garrett Wilson. And when the Jets are playing a football game, instead of planning your night around it, you need to go ahead and you need to instead plan on going and walking the dog, doing literally anything else. But let's go ahead and begin to pulling up our questions here. And I will say real quick, of course, Tony Pollard, more than 60.5 rushing yards, is going to be one of my favorite pick'ems on Underdog this week. Right now, you have the Dallas Cowboys as 16-point favorites over the Giants. They're going to be able to run the ball over and over and over and over again. So looking at the situation, just how we did, taking Keenan Allen more than 6.5 receptions tonight. We're going to be going Tony Pollard more than 16.5 rushing yards. I take that before the line moves. And then also, if you are new to Underdog Fantasy, promo code FLOCK, 100% a positive match. Our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And Bryce Young, more than less than half a total yard for a special pick'em. So make sure you take advantage. But I think that should be it. Let's go ahead and let's pull up our first question. Coming out from Henry says, Herbert, Bijan, Mixon, Eckler, Ramadre, DK, Thielen, Garrett, Jacoby, Jason, Warren, Laporta, Kincaid, full PPR double flex, 3 and 6 now. Need advice for trade packages badly. I mean, super simple advice that we have here, my friend. I mean, essentially, we want to be going through and we want to be selling one of the tight ends. We already have Sam Laporta through his bye. Sam Laporta will be someone that we can start every single week, regardless of matchup here. So if we have Laporta that we can fire up regardless of matchup, whenever we're looking at a player like Dalton Kincaid, it's not like we're super excited to put Dalton Kincaid in our flex, right? But no, someone else would be pumped to start Dalton Kincaid in their tight end slot as he is a top 5 tight end rest of season. So we're going to be looking to take one of the tight ends, package him with someone else in the starting lineup. I mean, based off what we had this week, I would say the easiest move would probably be able to package him with like Ramondre Stevenson coming off a big performance against Washington and seeing if we can go get a stud running back. But Nora says Bills or Niners DST rest of season. So I'd say first off with the Niners, they are already through their bye week, which you love to see. The Bills are not. Second off, if we're going to be looking at the matchups here, the Niners this week have the Jags, not great. But then after that, you have the Bucks, you have the Seahawks, you have the Eagles, you have the Seahawks, you have the Cardinals, you have the Ravens, and then for the championship, you have the Commanders. Going over to the Bills' schedule rest of season. The Bills, you're looking at going up against the Broncos this week, the Jets the week following, then the Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Chargers, Pats. So, I mean, in the short term, I would say Bills defense over Niners defense. Maybe in the long term, because they're already through their bye and these long-term matchups at the end of the year, maybe you're going to be looking at the Niners, but they're close. Obviously, both great defenses. Now, Cade says 12-team PPR. We have Lamar, Eckler, Jones, Lamb, Evans, Laporta, London. And then on the bench, we have Ferguson, Warren, Judy, Russ, Singletary. Looking to upgrade Evans or stick with him and find a solid flex. Any players to shoot for? So the thing is, I agree. I would love to get an upgrade in the starting lineup. 8-1 team, right? Actually, I'm sorry. That was the message below. But nonetheless, we're always looking to improve in the starting lineup if we can. But if we're going to look at what we have with Mike Evans here at wide receiver 2, what do we package with Mike Evans to get an upgrade at wide receiver 2? In our flex spot, we have Drake London. Down there on the bench, we have Ferguson, Judy, Russ, Singletary. So I'd love to go out and tell you, hey man, let's go sell Jake Ferguson and Mike Evans and let's go get a significant wide receiver upgrade. In reality, is that something we can do? Probably not. You know, so I would say if like London's in your flex spot, you're probably not in a position of strength where we can be going through and making 2-for-1 deals to get an upgrade at wide receiver 2. You're more so just trying to stay alive, at least how I'd see it. Now, Will Cost says 10-team PBR 6-3. We have Allen, Kyler, Etienne, Gibbs, Kyron, Charbonnet, Hill, Lamb, Puka, JSN, Judy, Kincaid, Waller. Should I trade Lamb for Jonathan Taylor and T? Thanks. Love the channel. Thank you, my friend. Honestly, really like the team. I'd say when we're looking at this kind of depth, by no means is this something that we have to do. But yeah, I think we can go through and trade CeeDee Lamb for Jonathan Taylor and T. Higgins now that Burrow is fully healthy. And at the same time, obviously, Jonathan Taylor is just dramatically expanding his role. Like, let me go ahead and pull up what we have real quick with the community rankings on flockfantasy.com. So real quick, just in case you don't know, if you go pull up the rankings page on flockfantasy.com, this is free for everybody, at least the community rankings. You'll be prompted with 4 guys saying like, oh, okay, how are we going to rank these players rest of season? You go through and you submit your rankings. Honestly, I'd probably have it similar to this. We're going to hit submit. And then on flockfantasy.com, we get that data point and we processed over, I believe, 100,000. It's been something ridiculous, like 70,000 in the first week. Matchups submitted to have a list of community rankings for everybody with how y'all are going through and valuing these players currently. And if you look at what you have with Jonathan Taylor currently, Jonathan Taylor has moved up to be RB6, but really he's just in the same tier. You have Barkley, Kamara, Taylor, all back to back to back at 17, 18, 19. In reality, I'd say after tonight and after this plays out over the next few days, Taylor's going to continue to rise probably to being RB4, RB5 in these rest of season rankings. So I'm fine if you wanted to go out there and pay up for Taylor. But of course, Lamb just looks phenomenal at the same time, right? I mean, if you look at the rest of season rankings right now, you have CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 5, only behind Chase, Diggs, A.J. Brown, and Tyreek Hill. Now, Brandon says, traded Walker for Javonte and Dell. How did we do? To be honest with you, I'm not a big fan. I think I would rather have Kenneth Walker. I understand why you were selling on him, though. Tough schedule going forward. And at the same time, I mean, this is a spot where he's coming off 2 horrendous weeks. I would have just said, well, you're probably better off going through and waiting until after the Washington game, where right now they're 6-point favorites over Washington. Probably going to get a much better sell high moment then. Bone says 12-team PBR, 8-1. We have Mahomes, Henry, Walker, Jefferson, Adams, Laporta, Metcalf, Connor. Thoughts on what the change? Nervous about Kenny and Jeffy. Yeah, so with Kenneth Walker, long-term, I understand being a little bit nervous, especially in a full PBR format if Charbonnet has the receiving role. But I would probably look to sell after this week, after the game against Washington, where hopefully we get a little bit of a bounce back. The issue right now is you just have no sell high moment at all. And then with Jefferson, I mean, going back and pulling up what we have with those community rankings, I 100% understand wanting to be scared, right? I mean, horrible, I want to say pretty bad offense going forward, even if I really am rooting for Joshua Dobbs. But Jefferson right now is wide receiver 8 in these community rankings. So if you were looking to sell Jefferson, you're looking at like Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. So, I mean, the discount's already priced in, and you possibly have Jefferson coming back very soon. So I would say I understand why you'd be nervous. Honestly, I think it's a great team, and I think you are just kind of sitting here and waiting around. I don't necessarily see too many moves that we could be looking to make there, my friend. But Jordan coming out saying, we have Hurts, Pollard, Gibbs, Javonte, Diggs, Chase, Amari, Hopkins, Ayuk, Achane. I'm 4-5, probably need to go at least 3 or 2, 4-1 rest of season. Any moves? So if you are looking at this team, I mean, great team at wide receiver. We have a ton of depth. I mean, we were saying to sell DeAndre Hopkins after the 3-touchdown game. I don't necessarily know if we're going to be getting nearly as much now if you look to move on from DeAndre Hopkins. But I would still stand by if you could send maybe like DeAndre Hopkins and maybe Tony Pollard or Jahmyr Gibbs or Javonte Williams and just go get a running back upgrade. Really, that's the only move you could make with this team with the construction of it. Jesse was down 17 going into tonight with the Chargers defense. Sure, very, very happy with the game. Multiple fumbles across the board, both for Zach Wilson and Garrett Wilson in this game. Max says, Pollard or Bijan, rest of season, full PBR format. I mean, if we're going to look at what the community rankings have on flockfantasy.com right now, you're looking at that the market is pricing Bijan Robinson in as RB14 rest of season. We have Tony Pollard in at RB11. And to be completely honest with you, while I didn't draft a lot of Tony Pollard this year, and while I did draft 11% Bijan Robinson over my 400 teams drafted, so I have much more Bijan Robinson than Tony Pollard. I think based off the offense that Pollard's in, we probably have to go ahead and probably have to take Tony Pollard. Hoover says trade Ramondre for Addison. 7-2, happy BR, 2 wide receiver league. I'm stacked at running back, but weak at wide receiver with Adams, Dotson, JSN, and Palmer. I would say no. I understand that Jordan Addison got there and the Vikings offense looked good this week. And I really am rooting for Joshua Dobbs going forward, but I don't know. I can't do it. I can't do it, especially if we are going to have Jefferson coming back soon. But Jacob says 10-team PBR, 2 receivers, 1 flex. We have Hurts, Bijan, Walker, AJ Evans, Andrews, JT Ridley, Myers, Nico Stroud, Hubbard, McBride, Dotson. Who are we going to start and any traits? So we're going to be starting from week-to-week perspective. Jalen Hurts at quarterback. At running back, we're going to go Jonathan Taylor. And then between Bijan, Kenneth Walker will be dependent on matchup. Wide receiver, we're going to go AJ and Evans. And then more times than not, we're probably going to go with that other running back for the flex. And then the trade that we would have, very boring, very simple trade, is whenever we have Jalen Hurts, we have a quarterback that we're going to start every single week, regardless of matchup, right? So might as well go to the team that lost Anthony Richardson, to the team that lost Justin Fields, to the team that lost Kirk Cousins. I mean, obviously, there have been a plethora of quarterback injuries across the NFL at this point. Go to one of those teams and go, hey, man, I'll give you CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, one of the most promising young quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And I'll package him up with Mike Evans. Give me a better wide receiver. Like, that's really the move you're looking to make if you have Jalen Hurts as well. Okay. Now, Brian says, should I trade Devonta Smith and Puka for Keenan Allen? Full BBR, 12-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Specifically in a league like this, where the depth isn't going to matter nearly as much, I would be fine if you wanted to make the move. I do think it kind of comes down to your team. Now, Sam says trade Lamar and Bijan for Lawrence, Etienne, and Ingram. So Bijan to Etienne, clear upgrade. Lamar to Lawrence, clear downgrade. Getting Evan Ingram as the sweetener. You can if you want. I drafted a lot more Etienne than Bijan this year, but it's painful to say that we may have to... I was rooting for Bijan more than Etienne, even if we drafted more Etienne. But you also have Lawrence. You have all the Jags through their bye week already as well. So if you wanted to go in that direction, I'm not going to fault you. Matt says 10-team BBR 5-4. We have Mahomes, Henry, JT Williams, Spears, Charbonnet, Henderson, Diggs, Adam Smith, Deontay Kincaid, Pitts, and he moves. So now that we have JT breaking out, it's going to be a much better team overall. We have the wide receivers at the top that we feel very comfortable with. Honestly, I think it's a great team. There aren't too many things that I would say here. I mean, the only thing is possibly if you could get a discount on Kelsey at the moment to to stack up with Mahomes. Maybe send like Deontay and Kincaid, 2 players coming off monstrous weeks that people are excited about. I mean, honestly, probably have to go a little bit higher. Probably have to go like Adams and Kincaid and see if we can make a swing for Kelsey coming off 2 disappointing weeks. I would love that if it's actually possible. Now, Ryan says 8-1, 10-team BBR single flex. We have Allen, Kelsey, Chase, Keenan Watson, JSN, Jacobs, Gibbs, David Montgomery, Algier. We gave Warren, Sutton, Hunt for Wilson. Good, or did we give up too much? Okay. Eight-team league with 1 flex. No, you did not give up too much because I would say in that format, 2 of the guys that we gave up may not even be rosterable. So if you go and look at how good the waiver wire is going to be in an 8-team league, you're going to be able to backfill with guys that are just as exciting as the players we traded away. AD says Tua for Brian Robinson. No one wants Tua. League mates rather start quarterbacks like Geno and Will Levis. Then in that case, even if we have 2 stud QBs, we're still going to have to hold on to Tua, and hopefully someone changes their mind. I'd rather have Tua as a backup than trade for Brian Robinson. If that's Bijan Robinson, then obviously Bijan. But if it's Brian, then no. Jaggy says, is Zach Wilson's mom hot? Let me go ahead and pull this up. Zach Wilson, mom. Okay, for a second I got a little confused here. I thought the girl on the far right was his mom. I was like, okay, well, this is strange. This is the picture I'm looking at, and she's a mom. Up to you. I'm not going to get out of my way and go, oh my God, she's so hot. But she's a mom. Pedro says 4-5, 12-team, happy BR. We have Lawrence, Chase, Olave, Etienne, Eckler, JT Laporta, and then on the bench, Higgins, Wilson, Achane, Goddard. Should I trade Etienne for a top quarterback with Achane's return? I'd say no. I'd rather have Etienne over any running back in fantasy currently. I mean, I'd almost rather sell Achane and Trevor Lawrence and see if we can go pivot over to a top 4-ish QB, right? I think I'd rather try to do that because I think you can squeeze a little bit of value out of Trevor Lawrence as well. So I think that would make a lot more sense, at least in my mind. But Jovi says 10-team PBR. First up, let me go ahead and make you a moderator, my friend. You're always out here hanging out with us. Thank you so much for everything. If you're a moderator, don't have to do anything if you don't want to. But if you do see someone spam the chat over and over again, you can always put user timeout. I'll mute them for about 5 seconds if they're just copying and pasting the same question over and over again. But 10-team PPR 6-3, 4-game win streak. We have Lamar, Jacobs, Bijan, Tyreek, Amari, Hawkinson, Addison. And then on the bench, Jones, Chuba, Kyron, Watson, Hollywood, Ayuk, Stroud, McBride. Thinking of a 2-for-1 deal for Chase, Cup, St. Brown from wide receiver needy teams. What are your thoughts? I mean, I'd love to make a move like that, right? Especially if we have Lamar. Like if we can go through and take, say, CJ Stroud and Amari Cooper and go make a move for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think that'd be an absolute no-brainer. And it's especially when we have this kind of running back depth where you currently have like Aaron Jones, Shoe Hubbard, Kyron Williams down there on the bench. I would say feel free to go through and throw in Kyron Williams. I'd be willing to take it one step further and say, let's make that 3-for-1 deal rather than just a 2-for-1 deal. That'd be it. I love it. Now, Captain Insano coming out. Always happy to see you. Always do not like your profile pic. It's just look at this is like the creepiest profile pic I think that we see from a day-to-day perspective. But have BBR, Eckler, Pollard, Higgins, Godwin, Madison, Kirk, Connor, Dotson, Mingo, Elijah. Looking to upgrade wide receiver without trading Higgins. If you wanted to collapse 2 wide receivers into one slightly better one, right? Like send Dotson and Christian Kirk to go get a slightly better wide receiver. Really, it's like the only move that you could make here. And yeah, I don't want to trade Higgins either. I mean, you know, we've had Higgins as that buy low candidate over and over and over again, waiting for Burrow and Higgins to get fully healthy. And now that it's actually happened, I'm not going to turn around and sell him. Now, Rise Vision says 10-team BBR, I'm 5-4. We have Dak, Kyler, Bijan, Montgomery, Pollard, Javonte, Singletary, Cup, Wilson, Addison, Mingo, Laporta, Kincaid. Any moves we can make? I'm going to reiterate what we've said. Very, very boring here. But if you have Laporta and Kincaid on the same team, if you were lucky enough to pick up both these guys off waivers, we're going to go through. We're going to look to sell one of them to get an upgrade elsewhere. I would say because Laporta's already gone through his bye week, it's probably going to be a better spot to go through and see if we can sell Kincaid. I have these guys as tight end 4, tight end 5 rest of season, so I am excited about them. But I mean, if you could go out there, if you could send maybe like Dalton Kincaid and Garrett Wilson and go get an elite level wide receiver from a team that actually needs a tight end, I think that'd make a lot of sense. Or honestly, maybe like Dalton Kincaid and Dak Prescott and see if we can go get an elite level quarterback. Joey says Dobbs or Young in a PPR format. Jalen Hurts is on bye. So, I mean, looking at reasonable expectations for Bryce Young this week, his underdog pick'em right now is at 221.5 passing yards, 234.5 total yards. Even if it's a good matchup, expectations are clearly very low on Bryce Young. And Joshua Dobbs not only has a great supporting cast, but also has rushing upside. So I'm going to go Dobbs if we need a streamer. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out any of those underdog pick'ems on Bryce Young for Thursday night, you can find that link to Underdog, live chat, description, comment section, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and that Bryce Young special pick'em more than less than half a total yard. Now, Wes says, my team has Herbert, Bijan, Walker, Hall, Cup, DK, Kelsey. Brutal 69 points. Should we trade Walker, Bijan, DK, or DJ? Need to salvage the team. Salvage the team. Well, Bijan Robinson, you're not really going to get anything. I think Bijan needs to be viewed as an RB2 rest of season. I mean, if you could still sell him as an RB1, then yes. Like if you could pivot off Bijan and send him in a package with a smaller wide receiver and go get Eckler, then let's do it. In reality, that deal's probably no longer an option. DJ Moore was that sell-high guy for us after the Washington game, but since then, it's really hard to say to go out there and sell. He's just a wide receiver in a bad offense. And with the Seattle guys, I'd say the Seattle guys, you probably can't sell right this second with this offense just imploding against the Ravens this past week. They have a much better matchup against Washington, where I believe they have the 4th highest implied team total of any team in the NFL this week. So if you're going to be looking to sell a Seattle Seahawk, probably not going to do it in this week. Probably more so going to be wanting to do it next week. But Robert says, I'm now 3-6. And we have Herbert, Lamb, Waddle, Bijan, Pollard, Kelsey, Saquon. The bench is Addison, Olave, Thomas, Fournette, and Kyler. Any trade targets or any suggestions? So I'd say we do have a considerable amount of wide receiver depth here, so we can afford to go out there and make a move if you really wanted. If you really wanted to see if we could move Addison and Justin Herbert and pivot over to like a top 3 QB, I think that would make a lot of sense. Now, with that being said, I'm not coming out here and saying, oh, okay, yeah, paying it with Justin Herbert. I think that Herbert's going to be okay, and it was just a bad game environment for him here. But, I mean, ultimately, if you were looking to go through and make a move, I think that selling one of the depth wide receivers would be the way that we go about it. And that is a position where we could upgrade on this team. Rich says, Jacobs moves to 0-9 by the hands of me. If y'all don't know, ladies and gentlemen, all season now, we've been keeping track of this guy named Jacob. I've never met Jacob. He's never had the opportunity. One day, maybe he's lucky enough. But sadly, Jacob, all year now, decided not to join the flock. Decided not to enjoy the game of fantasy football with us through the course of the season. And this man, because of his horrendous decisions, has now fallen to 0-9, I guess. Rich, I'm happy for you fighting the good fight, taking him down, and making sure that this loser does not win a single game this year. And until he corrects his ways, there's no way this is going to change by the end of the season. Now, Spencer coming out saying 12-team PBR 5-4. We have Lawrence, White, Jacobs, Diggs, Adams, Hockenson, Olave. And then on the bench, Rice, Madison, Carr, Henderson, Chuba. Any trades, we had Chubb and Kirk. Brutal, my friend. I don't necessarily know if we have any trades. I mean, if you could extract any value out of these running backs that have high floors, low ceilings, like if you could go through and send Darrell Henderson, if you could send Chuba Hubbard with Lawrence and go get a QB upgrade, let's do it. Especially now that Alexander Madison is viable with Cam Akers going down for the year. I just imagine that trade's much easier said than done, right? Now, Duran says 7-2 and took first place. Happy BR Superflex. We have Lamar, Diggs, Lamb, Pittman, Barkley, Hall, Andrews, Downs, and picked up Dobbs, Downs, Minshew, Charbonnet, Bryce. What do we do? Okay. I honestly don't think this would be a bad time. And I like Saquon Barkley, to be honest with you. I like Barkley, but I don't know if this would be a bad time to try to get out. Everybody knows how bad this offense is, but obviously we've seen a considerable amount of Barkley production despite how bad the offense has been, because Barkley is putting it on his back and literally doing absolutely everything with this team. But going forward, it's going to get even uglier. Like, it's only downhill from the New York Giants. Right now, they have an implied team total this next week of like 11 points. I've never seen something like it. So if we had to find like a sell-high guy in that lineup, it probably is Barkley. Let me see where he's at in the community rankings on flockfantasy.com. Yeah, right now he is RB5 in the community rankings on flockfantasy.com, directly behind Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler, Travis Etienne, CMC. If you could pivot off like Saquon to JT, that's something I'm definitely going to look to do. Now, Rob says, 2 is on bye, need a QB. We have Love, Levis, or should we pick up Dobbs or Heineke? Also, 3 wide receivers, Addison, Ayuk, St. Brown, Dell, Shaheed with Waddle on bye. We're going to go with St. Brown, Ayuk, and Addison relatively easily. And then between Love, Levis, Dobbs, Heineke, I could very easily just be biased at this moment. Full transparency, I could be very biased here. But my thought process is, okay, at the end of the day, Joshua Dobbs has rushing upside. Joshua Dobbs has TJ Hockenson, Jordan Addison, and now he has a full week to prepare. I don't know if I'm just hyping up Joshua Dobbs because he just took down our arch nemesis in Arthur Smith. That is 100% a possibility. But I don't know. I don't mind going through and betting on Dobbs. I think Dobbs is a good story. I want to root for the guy. Now, Nicholas says 10-team happy BR 5-4. Mahomes, Diggs, St. Brown, Jacobs, Henry, Ingram, Thielen. And then on the bench, London, Edwards, Algier, Thomas, and Achane. Any moves? Honestly, phenomenal team. I mean, if we are looking at this team, happy BR format, I'm actually going to probably keep as is. If it was a full BBR league, I'd definitely be looking to sell Gus Edwards. But no, in a happy BR league, I think it's a very well-balanced roster. I don't necessarily think that we have too much depth or not enough production at the very top end. I think we're in a very comfortable position. Flock Soldier, always happy to see it, says, full BBR, Lawrence, Ridley, Ayuk, Hopkins, Bijan, Etienne, Taysom, Myers. And then on the bench, we have Howell, Waddle, and Njoku, Dobbs, Singletary, Fournette. Any moves, go Longhorns, hook 'em horns, my man. I hate to be boring, and obviously, I mean, I understand that I am just the wet blanket when I say things like this, but I honestly don't see any moves. I mean, what I don't like about this team is I don't like that we are rostering 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. But it's not like Taysom is someone that we are for sure starting every single week, regardless of matchup, right? It's not like Lawrence is someone that we are for sure penciling in. I mean, you are dealing with a couple of these players more so being matchup dependent. So for that reason, I'd be fine with this team rostering 2 QBs and 2 tight ends. I think we're probably just going to be sitting on our hands here. Now, Shui says 12-team BBR, 3 receivers, 1 flex. We have Hurts, Chase, Adams, Wilson, Puka, Walker, Pierce, Hockenson, Rice, Spears, Anderson, Douglas. What should we do to upgrade running back? I am 6-3. I mean, currently at running back, we are sitting with Pierce and Henderson. So wide receiver, we are starting Chase, Adams, Wilson, Puka every single week. We can start 3 receivers and 1 flex. And then we have Kenneth Walker as well. So we have Kenneth Walker and then no real running back too. So in my mind, we have a couple different options. One, if you were really, really scared, you could go out there and you could look to sell maybe, say, TJ Hockenson and get a viable running back in return. If you're going to be looking to do that, here is the community rankings. Just to give you an idea of the running backs to be looking at. The guys right ahead of TJ Hockenson are Bijan, Mixon, Henry. We already have Walker. So if I could sell Hockenson for Bijan, Mixon, Henry with this team, I'd be fine doing so. My issue with selling a receiver is you have to start 3 of them. It's a full BBR format, and you have a flex spot. So the second we go out there and sell someone like Puka for a running back, we're just creating one hole by fixing another, you know? Which I don't necessarily know if that does anything for us here. Now, DeFleo says 12-team happy BR, 4-5. We have Fields, AJ, Ridley, Swift, Kyron, Saquon, Achane, Kincaid, Godwin, Watson, Charbonnet, Warren, Myers. Looking to trade Ridley and Achane for a wide receiver too. So let's go ahead and let's pull this back up. Just get an idea. I mean, I think it's very nice to just see this actual data to be able to kind of back up what we were saying here with community values. So we're going to be looking at, say, Achane and Ridley for an upgrade at wide receiver 2. So currently you have the wide receivers ranked ahead of Devon Achane as Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if you were looking to trade Achane and Calvin Ridley, one of the wide receivers that we'd be looking at in return would be someone in this range here. If we could get to Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think that would be an absolute no-brainer. Keenan Allen, I think you can do it if you really wanted to. Jefferson Kupp, it's a little bit more iffy here in this range. I mean, I don't necessarily know why we'd roster, say, Achane all the way up until this point just to give up on him at the very last second. Now, Kyle says 10 team, have BBR, 3 receivers, 2 flex, 7-2 in first place. We have Hurts at quarterback. Running back, we have Kamara, JT, Montgomery, Stevenson, Pierce. Receiver, Lamb, Collins, Rice, Sutton, Ingram. We just traded Jefferson for Kamara. Any moves? Don't know if I love the Jefferson for Kamara deal, specifically in a league where we can start 5 wide receivers from a week-to-week perspective. Especially as we were getting David Montgomery back in. I would say in this kind of league, I kind of want to be building around wide receiver, my man. So if we could take Ramondre Stevenson after coming off a very strong performance in a very easy matchup against Washington and go sell him with another receiver to go get an upgrade, I think I would really like to do that. But Joseph says 7-2, full BBR, 10-team, 1 flex. Top 2 teams get a bye. I'm tied for first. We have Allen, Pollard, Brees, Sanders, Spears, Charbonnet, Tyreek, Evans, Olave, Addison, Gabe Davis, Kincaid, Waller. What moves should we look to make? Ooh. So let's look at some expendable assets that this team has. Gabe Davis was that sell-high guy for us last week. Can't get anything for Gabe Davis now. We have Jordan Addison as our wide receiver 4 here. I mean, the move, if you really, really wanted to make one, would be sending maybe like Jordan Addison and Miles Sanders to go get a viable running back just before Justin Jefferson comes back in. I mean, going back to what we're talking about with Joshua Dobbs, Joshua Dobbs is still someone that I very much am rooting for this season. And I really hope that he does well, but at the same time, I feel like we can be unbiased enough to say that it's still going to be a very bad offense going forward. Not only is it going to be a very bad offense going forward, but when we get Jefferson back in, you're going to have Jordan Addison seeing a much smaller percentage of a much worse offense. So even if Addison's been great, even if Joshua Dobbs, had probably the most inspiring performance of any player this week, still probably looking to move off him. Now, Michael, I accidentally deleted your question. So please, Michael, let me know in the live chat real quick. Please don't feel like you have to donate again. Just type out what your question was in the live chat and be happy to answer it. Now, Noah says 12-team full BBR single flex. We have Fields, Taylor, Hall, Tyreek, Olave, Laporta, Moore. 6-3 after tonight. Any changes that we can look to make? DJ Moore and Fields were those sell-high guys for us after the Washington game. But now, honestly, I think we are looking to just kind of sit on our hands here and wait until we get Fields back in. Once we get Fields back in, I think we'll be a much better team and very well balanced roster at the same time. Jacob says trade Stroud, Nico, Walker for Eckler and Howell. Stroud to Howell, downgrade. Nico and Walker to Eckler, big time upgrade. I would. Machiavelli says 8-team PBR double flex. We have Hill, Adams, Jefferson, Olave, Ayuk, Jacobs, Walker, Saquon, Javonte. I send Olave, Javonte, TJ for Kelsey J. Oh my gosh. Yeah, go get Kelsey JT right now. Which running back to send? I would send Javonte before Rashad White, but I'd make the deal with either guy. Yeah, go do that ASAP. And then, Michael, I said this earlier in the live stream. I'll say it again, but please, my friend, go through and let me know what your question is in the live chat. Like I already said, I am trying to get you your answer. Just let me know what it is. And Brian asking when our rankings will be updated on flogfantasy.com. So if you look at the community rankings, those are constantly updated. I don't keep mine updated every single day. Typically, I update mine once every 2 weeks. And my rankings will be officially updated tomorrow. I was working on them all day today, but I didn't want to send out that update until we had the Jets-Chargers game, just in case anything happened. So yeah, my rankings personally will be updated on flogfantasy.com tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Still do not see Michael's question, and we actually may have to swing this back over to the other page. So I'm sorry, give me 1 second to do this, ladies and gentlemen. There'll be a few questions we have to bring up on this other page. And as I do that, Please, if you have not done so already, we are just a few likes away from hitting 300 likes on this live stream. We are closing in on 200 days in a row of streaming. So please, if you have not done so already, go down there, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, we just hit on our pick'em Keenan Allen more than 6.5 receptions. You can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. But let's move this over. Our next question coming out from, I believe, Cheech Chong says, 12-team, half BBR format, 5-4. We have Lamar, Diggs, Puka, Downs, Kittle, Kincaid, Walker, JT, Jacobs, and Kyron. Which two running backs would you trade? Thinking of Walker because the schedule. Was offered Jefferson for HN. What are your thoughts? Probably would sell HN for Jefferson if I'm going to be honest with you. And with Walker, I don't necessarily think that we're going to be looking to sell him right now, just coming off of two very bad games. I don't think you're going to be getting much. Right now, the Seattle Seahawks have they are the fourth highest scoring team with their implied team total, according to Vegas Sportsbooks this week. So I would be looking to hold on to Walker this week and then be looking to sell him after a big performance against Washington. Now, Vader says, hey, Mason, 10-team non-BBR, 6-3. Lost Goddard. And my man, this is going to be the most painful thing. Right now, I am freaking crushing in underdog drafts, but losing Goddard's really going to hurt me. But lost Goddard. We have Lamar, Bijan, Barkley, JT, Diggs, Higgins, JSN, Sabe, Moss, Spears, Hubbard, Dillon, Quinton. Any moves? Thanks. Thank you. I honestly think at this point, probably Quentin Johnston will be someone that we have to go through and let go of. And I was just talking about him being an interesting pickup with the Joshua Palmer injury this morning. But in a 10-team league, based on what we just had this game, I think we can probably let him go. And honestly, great team. I think we're going to dive into this a little bit more later in the week. But I think Saquon Barkley is also someone that we can potentially be looking to move on from, depending on price point. But let me see if Michael got us his question in the live chats. Um, 12-team, half PBR. We have Herbert, Eckler, Taylor, Diggs, Puka, Andrews, White, Kyron on the bench. Trade Herbert and Kyron for Lamar. Sit on my hands. Also, no worries, Mason. Love you, man. Love you, my dude. I think we are going to sit on our hands. I mean, I completely understand the thought process here. I mean, you do have so much depth where we can look to make a move like this in the long term. The issue is, like, Kyron Williams was that sell-high guy for us 2 to 3 weeks back. We talk about this a lot, but with these injured guys, what should happen is when they get injured, right, their value should just plummet. Kyron Williams should lose 75% of his value instantly. And then every week he gets closer to returning, that number just goes lower and lower and lower until he's at his full value yet again. Whereas what actually ends up happening is it's almost the opposite. A player will get hurt, but because they were just recently productive and everybody remembers who they really were, you'll see that immediate slight dip. And then over the next few weeks, they'll just continue to decline as nobody sees them and people forget about them, even though they're closer to returning. So Kyron Williams is someone that at this point, based off the values that I've seen, I think we actually are just going to be looking to hold. And then with Justin Herbert as well, I don't really know if we're going to be looking to go through and sell Justin Herbert when it's going to be a very tough thing to do with him just not giving anything against the Jets. And with the player disappointing in prime time, it's going to be something that everybody remembers, right? But Emily coming out, thank you, saying 10-team BBR 4-5. We have Herbert, Cook, Brees, Godwin, Puka, Kelsey, Olave. Also, Goff, Chuba, Dobbs, Higgins, McBride, HN on the IR. What can we do? Very well-balanced team. I mean, at this point, I would say that T. Higgins probably looks to be an every week starter for us. I think you're doing a great job with this team as is. If you could sell like Puka and James Cook and go get a significant upgrade at running back, I think that'd make a lot of sense before Fournette comes in here. But you're also going to get HN back in, We need to roster the backup tight end just for the Travis Kelce bye, but then after that, we're going to be good to go with just Kelce. So I'd say after the bye, then at that point, cut Trey McBride, but we're chilling for now. Ryan coming out saying, same question, but it's a 10-team league. Thank you, Flag. No, thank you. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up from Ryan. Oh, I apologize. 10-team league, it's not as good as it is in an 8-team league, that Wilson deal, but it's still fine. It's still fine. I'm not nearly as excited about it as I would have been. And I'm sorry that I misread. 8-1. I thought you meant 8-team league. That's my fault. Cheeky Opson says, flock and roll all night and party every day. Always happy to see you, my friend. And I was thinking, I was going to say we could do the... just in case y'all don't know, every year we do a flock meetup. Looking forward to seeing Cheeky Opson again, but I was thinking we could do it in December this year. That way we could have some more people out there because there'll be more people watching the video still in December, so they'll see the announcement. Then I realized where we usually have it, Zilker Park. There's like a big trail lights thing in December, so we can't do it there. So if I can think of somewhere else where we can do it, we can still do the meetup in December and not January, but maybe it's going to be a January thing yet again. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So now our next question coming out from, I believe, Mr. Abratcher says, looking at rest of season, which combo looks better? Hill, Kamara, Walker, or CMC, JT, Amon-Ra? So give me CMC over Hill. Give me JT, Kamara, up to you. Give me Amon-Ra over Walker. So I'm going to go CMC side relatively easily. Adrian says, Gaia, Burrow, Lamar. He desperately needed a running back. I traded Gus Bus and got Lamar. Oh my gosh. Also giving Bijan one more chance, or is he going on the bench until the playoffs? I mean, Bijan is, in my mind, a mid RB2. Definitely not the guy that you drafted in round 1 for him to be. Obviously, we did not say that correctly, but still, you get the point. Definitely a very disappointing player, but outside the one headache game, every game he's had 10 or more carries, and every game he's averaging 4 or 5 targets as well. So with that kind of workload, you have to start him. He's just a lot closer to Ramondre Stevenson than he is a top 5 RB. Caesar says, standard 12-team league, double flex. Trade Kyler and Laporta for Andrews. We also have Schultz, or do we stay put? 7-2 after today. Thanks, Mason. Thank you, my friend. Kyler and Laporta for Andrews. I think it honestly depends a little bit more who we have at quarterback rather than who we have at tight ends. Kyler and Schultz for Andrews is an absolute no-brainer. Laporta's a little bit tougher. If you're telling me we have an elite level QB, I'm fine doing it, but that is a fair deal. I would think we'd need to see the QB. Now, Sadis a lot says 7-2, happy BR, 8-team league. We have Allen, Keenan, Thielen, Wilson, Ridley, Debo, Olave, Jefferson, Bijan, Montgomery, Kyron, Achane. How can we improve? We have a zillion wide receivers here, my friend. Phenomenal team. Obviously, we are 7-2. We have a tremendous amount of value. But I will say, I'm probably going to look to go through, and I am probably going to be looking to see if we can take some of these wide receivers and send them with a couple running backs and just get RB upgrades. It doesn't even matter the names. Probably going to have to sell players that people actually want, right? I don't think we're going to get away with selling Calvin Ridley. But sell a few wide receivers whenever we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys you'd feel startable. Just package them with a few of these running backs and see if we can get an upgrade in the starting lineup. Young Lock, always happy to see you, my friend. Saying, hey, Mason, should we trade Edwards for Aaron Jones? Or what players do you think we should target? We also have Lamar, or do you think we should trade him as well? I'm going to hold on to Lamar. And yeah, I would look to sell Edwards for Aaron Jones very easily if it's a full PPR format, to be honest with you. Very easily. Misa says, need a running back, trade Adams, Pittman, Olave, or none for Bijan. Full transparency, I drafted a lot more Pittman this year than I did Bijan Robinson. I believe I had Pittman in about 15% of my drafts, where we had Bijan Robinson in about 11%. However, with that being said, I will go through and I will trade Pittman for Bijan Robinson. I am very biased. Every time we talk Bijan, I have to admit that I'm very biased. Hook'em Lawrence, interviewed him at the draft, met him at the gym in Austin. Love the dude. But I still think at the end of the day, running back points are harder to come by than wide receiver. He's averaging about 5 targets a game, about 13 carries per game as well. Now, GDF says 8-1, 12-team, 4-player keeper. We have Herbert, Purdy, JT Gibbs, Kyron Anderson, Charbonnet, Singletary, Fournette, Diggs, Lamb, Puka, Hollywood, Samuel Hawkinson. Any tips? Thanks. Appreciate you, my friend. 8-1. Obviously, we are looking to push in now. So this may be a little bit more of a nuanced thing. If it is a keeper league, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to go through and try to approach some of those teams that maybe are 1-8, maybe are 2-7, and go, hey man, I see, yeah, you're 2-7, you're 1-8. I know you're probably looking forward to next year. How about I send you Jahmyr Gibbs and you give me back a veteran running back like Austin Eckler? How about I send you Jahmyr Gibbs and another younger option and you give me back someone like CMC, which obviously wouldn't be something that would happen in just a traditional redraft league, but maybe we could pull that off if it's a keeper format, but great team. Now, Zach says, happy to be our quarterback. We have Hurts, receiver Lamb, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, AJ, Nico, Quentin, running back Etienne, Bijan, Pollard, Connor. Phenomenal team. Unbelievable team. I would say if Nico Collins is our wide receiver 5, I'd love to sell Nico Collins and like Bijan Robinson and go get an RB upgrade. Like, well, yeah, Nico Collins has been absolutely crushing it, and he did crush it this week with CJ Stroud just looking like the freaking man. I mean, at the same time, he did only have like 6 targets, right? So not super exciting. Jay Mills says Olave or Deontay rest of season. I'm going to go with Olave relatively easily. Let me go ahead and pull up what we have with the matchups here. So these are the community rankings on Underdog Fantasy. You have Olave at 33 overall, and you have Deontay at 52 overall. Yeah, so the community rankings also agree to go with Olave over Deontay. Okay. Now, Jay says, 10-team have BBR. We have Stroud, Goff at quarterback. Running back, Eckler, Etienne, Gibbs, and Javonte. Receiver, we have Lamb, Pittman, Debo, London, Rice. Tight ends, Kincaid. Any trade ideas? Thanks. Thank you, my friend. Great, great team. I mean, I would test the waters and see what the price point would be from CJ Stroud to a top 3 quarterback. Mahomes, Allen, Hurts. Like, I don't necessarily know what we can do here outside of potentially see if we can take like the massive, massive CJ Stroud week and see if we can go get to someone that we've had the larger sample with. Jay says start Stroud or Goff. We're going to go Stroud. Also need 2 to start. Pittman, Debo, Gibbs, or Javonte. In doubt between Debo or Pittman is my wide receiver 2. We're going to go Gibbs, Pittman this week, and then potentially Debo long term. But Debo is one of these players that I want to see fully healthy. I mean, before we go through and just jam him in over someone like Pittman. Now, Corey says 10 TBBR 7-2 record. Howell, Fields, Kyler, Eckler, Jacobs, Connor, AJ Allen, Deontay Flowers, JSN, Laporta, McBride. Any trades for the playoffs? I don't really have any trades for you. The only thing that I would say is I would want to construct the roster in a little bit of a different way. Now that we have Laporta through his bye week, I wouldn't mind that in a 10-team league if we just let go of someone like Trey McBride. And then now that it looks like we may be getting it back either or possibly both of Kyler Murray and Justin Fields, I wouldn't mind just shipping off Sam Allen, getting an upgrade literally anywhere else just because I don't want to be rostering 3 QBs. So yeah, if we get slim down there and instead of rostering 3 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends, just roster 2 quarterbacks and 1 tight end, I think I'd like that a lot more. Now, Jake says 10-team PBR double flex, 6-3. Herbert, Eckler, Pacheco, Kupp, Diggs, Kincaid, Kittle, Higgins, Gibbs. Looking to move Kittle and Gibbs to get an upgrade in the flex. Any ideas? I actually really like that idea. I don't necessarily know if those are going to be the guys that we need to lock in as our trade options. I definitely like trading Kittle, however, when we have Deebo Samuel coming back and we have Kincaid as well. So let's look at maybe where we have Kittle and Gibbs in these rest of season rankings currently. These are the community rankings on flockfantasy.com. So y'all essentially create these. Kittle's at 61 overall here. Jahmyr Gibbs is at 46 overall. So I'd say if we're packaging these guys together, we probably want a top 30 asset. And if we're looking for the flex, we're looking at running backs, wide receivers. Inside the top 30, you're looking at like the DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson range, my friend. Hopefully that helps. Now, Basil says 10-team PBR 5-4. We have Mahomes, Henry, Hall, Ramondre, Jefferson, Kupp, Godwin, JSN, Taysom. Should I give Jefferson for Pollard, Amari, and Evans, or Thielen or Bijan instead of one of those? If we could send Jefferson for Pollard, Amari, and Bijan, yes, I would. Or Pollard, Amari, and Thielen, yes, I would. I am a little bit hesitant, though, with that 10-team league. Obviously, depth's not going to matter as much. Now, Debris says, have BBR 10-team league, sell one for Kelsey or a wide receiver upgrade. Barkley, Kyron, HN, Gibbs, White. We can package one with Keenan if needed. I have Mahomes as well. So when we have 5 of these viable RBs, I think I'd actually probably rather go through and rather see if we can just send 2 of the running backs together and go get Kelsey. Like if you could send Barkley and White, Gibbs and White, Gibbs and Kyron, Gibbs and HN and Kyron. Essentially any 2 running backs not named Barkley and Gibbs in a package together. And go get Travis Kelsey. I think it'd make a lot of sense for that team. Thomas says, how do you view Madison rest of season with no Akers? Low-end RB2 based off volume that you are starting in good matchups. Should we still be looking to trade or hold him? Also, should we hold Sanders? Thank you. Thank you. I mean, with Miles Sanders, I think he's kind of just a handcuffed running back at this point. And then with Alexander Madison, I honestly don't think you're going to get much for him. So you probably are going to be holding on to him. Now, the Noctorious one says, should I trade Lamb, Amon-Ra, or Keenan for Hill? I would trade any of these wide receivers for Tyreek Hill. And I honestly think all 3 players are in the same tier, and it's up to you. So, yeah, I would just ask Tyreek Hill owner who he wants and give him who he wants. Okay. Matt says traded Deontay and Addison for Chase. What are your thoughts? I think you just straight up robbed a man, especially as you get ready for Jefferson to come back in. Now, Durant says, thank you for all the help. Same 7-2 roster. We were offered Kupp for Breece. I was also offered CMC for my Lamb and Breece. What are your thoughts? I think honestly both trades are appealing. If it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where depth's not going to matter that much, I would probably sell Lamb and Breece for CMC, even if Lamb obviously has been absolutely dominant as of late. But CMC is still CMC. He is still in his own tier here. Now, Gnarls says 10-team PBR 6-3. We have Allen, Bijan, Swift, Smith, Kirk, Kelsey, Stevenson. And then on the bench, Judy, JSN, Javonte, T, Ford. Do we send Kelsey or Mondre and Smith for Kupp and Andrews? Could maybe ask for Madison as well. So, Ramondre and Smith versus Kupp. Give me Kupp. Kelsey versus Andrews. Give me Kelsey. We're going to go ahead. We're probably still going to take the Kelsey side. I still think that Kelsey is the best player in this deal. I mean, I think that maybe you're just falling to Kelsey being disappointing over the past few weeks. Like, I don't know. And with Kelsey, I still view him in a completely different tier than Mark Andrews, even if over the past 2 weeks he has been disappointing. Now, Raekwon says, 10-team BBR, I'm 6-3. We have Allen, CMC, Brees, JT, Lamb, Cup, Cooper, Kincaid, Kittle, Kirk, Najee. Any moves we should look to make? I'm worried about Cup. I don't think you should be worried about Cup. I think Stafford just got hurt, and I think Stafford will get better. They have a perfectly timed bye week this week. Now, if you really wanted to go out there and you really wanted to make a play, what you're going to be looking to do is you're going to be looking to sell Dalton Kincaid. I'm sorry, sell George Kittle because we have Dalton Kincaid. And you're going to have Deebo Samuel coming back into this offense. So if you wanted to send, say, maybe George Kittle to the Dallas Goedert owner, and if you are really, really worried about Cooper Kupp, package him with Cooper Kupp to go get that wide receiver upgrade, you could look to do that. Thomas says, in a 12-team full BBR Dynasty League, which side do you like better? His Pollard, Swift, or my 103 and a high second? We also have the 101 and 111. If it is a super flex league, I will guarantee you that the 103 will be worth more than the running backs this offseason. However, the 103 also may not win you your league right now. So if you are going to go ahead, if you're going to be able to win your league by going and trading for DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard, I'd be okay with it. I'd be more excited about it if it was a 1 QB format, however. Okay. Let me go ahead and swing this to the other page. Just give me 1 second to do this, ladies and gentlemen. And as I do that, if you have not done so already, please go down there, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. And of course, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat, in the description, in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And the Bryce Young special pick'em, more than less than half a total yard. And actually, I just saw that. We can go through and we can keep it with this page. Reed coming out saying, 16 team, have BBR 7-2. We have Al, we dropped Watson, Swift, Henry, Lamb, Puka, Deontay, Lockett, Kincaid, HN, Rice, Henderson. Need RV for next week, Gibson, McKinnon, or should we get Watson back? Are you asking who would rather have the bottom end of the roster between Gibson and McKinnon, or who would rather start between Gibson and McKinnon? Probably rather start McKinnon and set up a Prairie as a touchdown, even if it's unlikely. He had like 3 touches this week, though, so obviously it's very hard to say that. And then, yeah, I would definitely go out there and pick up Deshaun Watson if we can again. Now, Big Route says, in a 10-team full BBR league, I traded Lamar and Connor for Jalen Hurts. For Jalen Hurts. Henry and Waddle for Chase. Bijan and Evans for Eckler. And Kincaid for Javonte. I love the first 3 deals. The Kincaid one, not so much. You're saying you had Laporta. I don't think you paid too much with the first 3 deals. I think it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, I understand going through and making that play right. If you have Laporta, I would have just rather have tried to get a higher price tag out of Kincaid. Okay. Now, LTJ says 3-6, 10-team full BBR format. We have Lawrence, Purdy, Eckler, Mixon, T. Wilson, Waddle, Kincaid, Moss, McBride. Finally won this week off of the last Eckler touchdown. Hell yes, my friend. Any moves? So, I mean, if we could upgrade quarterback, it'd be great, right? I just don't see an easy way to do it. To be completely honest with you, I don't see any moves here. Zach Moss was that sell high guy for us earlier in the year. Now you're not really going to be getting much for him. And yeah, we like the running backs and wide receivers that we have at the very top end. I think the team will be much better going forward with the Bengals stack now that we have Burrow fully healthy. Now, Mr. Ling Lang Jr. says 10-team full BBR, single flex. We have Lamar, Bijan, Eckler, Diggs, Amon-Ra, Laporta, Gibbs. Any changes? We are all in on the Detroit Lions offense, which obviously is not a bad thing. I mean, without seeing the bench, I'd say not necessarily. I mean, I do think it's an interesting spot in an 8-team league. If people are beginning to get a little concerned about Kelsey, seeing if we can send maybe like Laporta and a piece to go get Kelsey. Jacob says Walker, Nico for Keenan. We have JT and Bijan. Yes, I'd be fine doing this in a full PPR format. Tover says full PPR, Mahomes over Stroud and lost. 6th place, trade Stroud or Mahomes, DJ Moore, Nico, James Cook, Taylor, Hollywood Ayuk, Andrews, Hubbard, Javonte. Losing by 8 hurt this week. Flog fan for life. Appreciate you, my friend. If your trade deadline is next week, I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to be looking to hold on to both quarterbacks. That way we can start Stroud for the Patrick Mahomes bye, and then hopefully be able to sell Stroud next week at a similar price to what you would get right now. And then in terms of what you'd be looking to sell him with, I think you're probably going to be seeing if we could send him with maybe like James Cook to get a better running back, Javonte Williams to get a better running back, or even Nico Collins to go get an upgrade at wide receiver. But I think long-term here, we're going to be looking to sell Stroud. I would just rather wait until we get through the Mahomes bye. Now, Lucas says 4-5 in a 16-team PPR league. Lineup is Mahomes, JT, Pollard, Ridley, Moore, London, Laporta. How do we turn this around and make the playoffs? $16-team league, depth's going to be much harder to come by. And honestly, I think we're chilling in a 16-team league. Like, I don't really see an inherent sell-high candidate. DJ Moore is that sell-high guy for us a few weeks back. And his values come back down to earth. I think it's a great team in a 16-team league. I think it'll be obviously 4-5. A lot of that had to do with Jonathan Taylor at the beginning of the year. But with JT good to go, I think this team's going to naturally continue to get better. Jordan says 5-4, 10-team BBR. Kyler, Bijan, Walker, Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Charbonnet, Diggs, Adams, Deontay, Nico, Rice, Kincaid, McBride. Any thoughts? Who to start? 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. So tight end, we're going to go Kincaid. Wide receivers, we're going to be going with Diggs and Adams. Running back, we're going to be going with Gibbs and Aaron Jones. Flex, we're going to be going maybe Walker this week over Bijan. Let me go ahead and we just made these rankings. Yeah, Walker 15. Bijan at 16. Walker does have a very good matchup against Washington. And then I don't necessarily think that we have any trades right now. If you could maybe send like Nico Collins in a deal after this week with Kenneth Walker to go get a long-term upgrade at running back, I would look to do so. But we're not going to be looking to sell Walker right now. Not really going to be getting much whatsoever. I think we're going to have to wait till we get a good week against the Washington Commanders. Now, Andrew says 10-team full BBR single flex, 6-3, tied for first. Burrow, Bijan, Walker, Tyreek, Brown, Kincaid, Ayuk, Higgins, Spears, Javonte, Lawrence, Deontay. Any moves? Do I sell a high-end wide receiver for a running back? I think it depends on the price point. I don't necessarily know if this is something that we look to do right now, similar to what we were talking about with the team previous to this. I think that if you were looking to sell Kenneth Walker, it's probably going to be after a very strong performance against a bad Washington defense. I'd be fine if you wanted to go out there and make that play. We're probably just going to be waiting a bit until after this week. And I've been the guy screaming for a month now, buy T. Higgins, buy T. Higgins, buy T. Higgins. But here, if you really wanted to go through and if you wanted to send T. Higgins, because people are going to be excited about him now, I think you maybe could look to do that, right? Okay. Now, Jovi says, odds on Bijan's late season boom / an Arthur Smith firing. I don't know if we're going to get an Arthur Smith firing during the season. It's not like the Falcons are as big of a debacle as what we had with the Raiders. And with Bijan Robinson, I think that this still is a running back that we're going to be starting every single week. I think we just have to dramatically change expectations to understand now that Bijan Robinson probably is instead just an RB2, right? Probably an RB2. Now, Solid Jagan says, what up, Flock? No question. Just celebrating my 6th straight win after starting 0-3. Never give up, boys. Always happy to see you, my friend. And congrats. I'm really happy for you. Ernest says, a bunch of my guys are underperforming. Who should I try to trade out of between Lamar, Bijan, Pollard, Godwin? Lamar isn't getting touchdowns. Lamar's going to be just fine. Let's go ahead and let's pull this up. Touchdowns are extremely volatile from a year-to-year perspective. I'm sorry, from a week-to-week perspective. We've seen Lamar lead the NFL in touchdowns before. And if you look at quarterbacks leading the NFL in rushing yards currently, Lamar Jackson is sitting at 440. And no other quarterback is over 400. No other quarterback is over 350. There are only 2 other quarterbacks over 300. So Lamar is running laps when it comes to his rushing upside at this point. Bijan, if you could sell him as an RB1 still, sure, but I hear nobody's going to buy him at that price. I think I'm a net holder. I think you're not selling any of these players right now. If you were going to be selling one, it may be Pollard, but not right now. That would be next week after Pollard crushes the Giants this week. Adrian says, 8-team Happy VR. Trade Javonte and DK for Pollard. Thanks. Thank you. And yes, I would go get Pollard here. Carson says, hey, Mason, won this week. I'm now 5-4 in a 10-team PPR format. The team is Howell, Love, Ramondre Mostert, Pierce, Fournette, Tyreek, Lamb, Nico, Watson, Rice, Ingram, and Ferguson. Dolphins bye next week. Any moves? Thank you so much, my man. And congrats on the dub. I mean, here it sucks at quarterback that we don't have that guy that we feel comfortable starting every single week. I mean, if we were looking at going through and making a trade, I don't necessarily know if QB is at the very top of our list. Very small move that we could potentially try making. If we can go to the Dallas Goedert team and go, hey, man, I see that you need a tight end. Here's Jake Ferguson. Jake Ferguson's been great. And see if you could go through and possibly send like Jake Ferguson and maybe Raheem Mostert or Jake Ferguson and Ramondre Stevenson to go get a running back upgrade. You could potentially look to do that, my friend. But overall, I mean, we don't have a lot of expendable value here, right? I mean, maybe Rashee Rice is someone that we can try to get some value out of. I'll reiterate what we've said with Rashee Rice. So wide receiver, that was actually my most drafted Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver in underdog drafts this year. Primarily just because we were going through and saying, oh, okay, well, at the end of the day, I have no idea what's going to happen, so let me take the cheapest guy. But they're just spreading the ball around so much that at this point, I don't know if any wide receivers here can be viable. So maybe if you wanted to see if we could send Rice instead of Ferguson, because obviously I don't know if anybody's going to buy Ferguson. It's hard because we don't really have a lot of expendable value with that team. Now, Blank says sending Watson, Kittle, Bijan for CMC in an 18-team format. The team would be Stroud, CMC, JT, Hollywood, Olave, and Njoku. The bench is Kyler and a bunch of scrubs. So I would say specifically in an 18-team format, I am never that excited to go out there and make a move where we are selling 3 players for 1 guy. In an 18-team league, I want to be building around depth. This is like a move that I would love in a 10-team league, and I'd laugh that it could even get made. I would go, oh, it's CMC by a mile. Here in an 18-team format, it's a little bit closer. But yeah, if you've crushed with some of these quarterbacks off waivers like Stroud, then you can afford it. Now, Tyler says Aaron Jones or White in a full BBR format. I'm going to go Aaron Jones over Rachaad White, my friend. Now, Colt Dog says any moves and who to start this week. 3 and 6 full BBR. Eckler, JT, Pittman, Chase, Gibbs, Bijan, Cook, Hollywood, Amari, Ridley. And do we start Taysom or Goddard? So Goddard, 1 is on bye and 2 is going to miss about 4 weeks here minimum. So you will be forced to go Taysom. And then our running backs, we're going to go with Eckler, JT. Our wide receivers, we're going to be going with Chase and Pittman. And then in a full BBR format, I'm not going to fault you at all if you wanted to go through and if you wanted to start Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson in a full PPR league. But Montgomery will be playing this week. Now, Ari says 3 and 6, 10-team BBR league. We have Lamar, Henry, Montgomery, Diggs, Thielen, Ingram. And then for the bench, Hopkins, Madison, Deontay, McBride, Brian Robinson, Downs, Hunt, Singletary. Any trades to win out? So, yeah, I mean, I would love to go out there and take some of this wide receiver depth. Our sell-high guy last week was DeAndre Hopkins coming off the 3 touchdowns. Now it's going to be much harder to sell Hopkins. Now I think that, I mean, you have to sell wide receiver people are excited about, right? So, I mean, honestly, I think the move would be seeing if we could package like Deontay Johnson, Kareem Hunt, Evan Ingram, throw a little bow on it, and go get someone like Mark Andrews to stack with Lamar. I think that would make a lot of sense here. Now, like says 10-team BBR, Fields and Bijan for Kamara and Burrow. Bijan to Kamara, full BBR format, you go Kamara. Fields to Burrow, you go Burrow. So yes, we'll go with the Kamara Burrow side. Dylan says 3 and 6, RB2 is Kyron. Should we trade Kamara for Pollard and Javonte? Non-PBR format, yes. Full BBR league, I'd be significantly more hesitant to do it given the receiving usage that we have for Kamara. If you had no other option on how to get running back depth, you can do it. I just wouldn't love it. Now, 416 Hendricks says, from 0-3 to 5-4, hell yes. Team is Allen, Etienne, Saquon, Achane, Diggs, Puka, Ayuk, Amari, Tank, Jacoby, Ingram, Kincaid. Any advice? I think it's a great team. If we have Allen, I really like just betting on this double stack for the Bills offense with Diggs and Kincaid. For that reason, if you wanted to go through and see if we could sell like Brandon Ayuk and Evan Ingram in a package and go get a better wide receiver, I'd look to do that. Or maybe if you could pivot from like Saquon Barkley and Evan Ingram to go do a better running back like Etienne, I'd look to do that as we already have Etienne, but you get the idea. I'd look to do that. I honestly, even though Saquon Barkley has been phenomenal, wouldn't mind selling Saquon Barkley low just because I really do think that like there's like no way in hell he can continue this kind of production with how bad this offense is. Now, Aerosite, always happy to see it, says 6-3 traded Swift, Goddard, Watson for Amonra and Ramadre before week 9. Looking great now. Single flex league. We have Fields, Kyler, Diggs, Amonra, T, DJ, Etienne, Bijan, Ramadre, Javonte, Warren, Andrews, Should we start Bijan or pivot? Yeah, obviously the trade's great with 2020 hindsight. And then if we're looking at who we're going to start, we're going to go Diggs, Amon-Ra at wide receiver. Running back, we're going to go with ETN. And honestly, yeah, I do think that we have to start Bijan Robinson. I mean, Bijan and Ramondre are kind of in similar spots where both running backs are in bad offenses. Both running backs are committee running backs at this respective point. But you can kind of pencil in 4 to 5 targets. You can kind of pencil in that they'll have anywhere from like 10 to 15 carries. But the difference is just Bijan Robinson's been more efficient than Ramondre Stevenson. You have Bijan Robinson currently sitting with, I believe, 5 yards per carry, whereas you have Ramondre Stevenson less than 4. It's like 3.5. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's sad to admit how close Bijan and Ramondre are together, but I still think we go with Bijan. Now, Zach says, should we trade Andrews and Jefferson for Kelsey and Jonathan Taylor? Andrews to Kelsey, clear upgrade. Jefferson to JT. It is up to you and up to your roster. I think it's a fair deal and it's up to you. Tover says Mahomes and DJ Moore for Ford Olave. Oh, Mahomes and DJ Moore, not close. Yeah. Or it doesn't matter if it's Myers. You go Mahomes and DJ Moore. Joe says 8-team at BBR single flex. 8-1 in my league. Starters are Allen, Adams, Brown, Jacobs, Taylor, Kelsey, Keenan. And then on the bench, we have Myers, Brian Robinson, Flowers, Stevenson, Kincaid, Kyron Williams, Kyler Murray. Who do we trade for an upgrade? Thank you. Thank you. 8-team league. Love the roster. I mean, we're built around the elite tight end and the elite quarterback with Allen and Kelsey. Then we're focusing on our running back, wide receiver upside down there on the bench and in the starting lineup. I mean, the only thing I'd say at this point is if you wanted to go through, if you wanted to send Kincaid whenever we have Kelsey on an 8-1 team where we're thinking long term, if you wanted to send maybe like Kincaid and Devontae Adams to go get a wide receiver that you felt a little more comfortable with, you could look to do it. But by no means do you need to. I mean, obviously, this is a great team. Jordan says, Goff or Kyler rest of season. 6-point passing touchdown format. Goff, 4-point passing touchdown format. Maybe Kyler. Just depends how much you think Kyler's going to run. And then Njoku or McBride. We're going to go David Njoku, my friend. Blake says, hey, we've lost 2 in a row and we need some help. I'm 5-4 in a 14-team league. Stroud, Hunt, Swift, Jamar, Deontay, DJ Musgrave. And then on the bench, Howell, Jameson, Wandale, Michael Wilson, Mercado, and then Kyron/Waller. I don't necessarily think that there are too many trades that stand out. Obviously, in this league, depth's going to matter a ton. So going through and losing both Darren Waller and Kyron Williams to injury, it's kind of going to do it to you. You are going to see that drop in output. It's going to be harder to replace. I would just say that we probably don't want to be rostering these low ceiling wide receivers, even if we like the floor. So in terms of trades, I don't see much, but I do think that we want to go ahead and we probably want to say drop Wandale Robinson and just pick up anybody else off the waiver wire this week. Now, Michael says 12-team, happy BR, first place, 8-1. We have Watson, Gibbs, Kyron, Madison, Chuba. Tyreek, St. Brown, Puka, Moore, Nico. Hawkinson and Pitts. We add Kirk. Should we target a quarterback or any flex targets? Just got the mother flock package. Hell yes, my friend. If you use code flock, make sure you link with the Discord. That way you can send me your team in the roster submissions chat, and I'll be happy to give you an in-depth, long podcast breaking that down, my friend. And here, I mean, I think that you can afford to go get that upgrade at quarterback. I mean, with say the wide receivers, you have Tyreek, St. Brown in that top tier. And then after that, you have 3 guys that you can, I don't want to say you can make an argument of, but there are 3 guys that are all kind of the same. So, I mean, if we're looking at someone that's exciting, who's just in a phenomenal offense, I think if you wanted to go through and see what kind of value you could get for Nico Collins, maybe like if you wanted to go ahead and see if we could package together Nico Collins and Deshaun Watson to pivot over to a quarterback that we're more excited about for the long term, I think that could be a move that you could afford to make right here. And even with the Texans offense being phenomenal, I mean, it's not like Nico Collins is blowing them out of the water. And yeah, thank you so much for everything, my friend. And yeah, shoot me that message on Discord if you have any questions, getting me your team with the roster submission tab. I'd be happy to answer anything you got, my friend. But Chef coming out saying, thank you. No, thank you, my friend. 4 and 5. PBR, single flex. Had Mahomes, Kelsey, Kamara, Montgomery, Waddle, Flowers, Collins. Desperate. So Kamara for HN and White. I do not like it. Trade White, Mahomes for Jefferson, Walker. It's okay. Then trade Kelsey, Collins, Flowers, Walker for Lamb, Ferguson, Brian Robinson. Kelsey to Lamb, slight upgrade. Walker to Ferguson and Brian Robinson. Now, you're trying to do way too much here, my friend. I'm sorry. I think you have a fine team as is. I think Kelsey will be much better going forward. It sucks that Montgomery got hurt, but Montgomery is going to be healthy this week, so you should be in a much better spot. I understand why you'd be a little bit frustrated here with this team. I think it's going to be much better going forward. I think if you make those 3 deals all together, which it looks like you already did, I think the end result may end up being worse than what we started with. Of course, I'm wishing you the best of luck, my friend. So I hope I am wrong, but I think we were trying too much. I think it was just David Montgomery got hurt. Travis Kelce had a couple bad weeks. And we just had to wait for them to get better. Chandler, always happy to see us, says, love you, my man. 10-team full BBR. Lamar, Hall, CMC, Diggs, Lamb, Kincaid, Amon-Ra. And then on the bench, Higgins, Dell, Achane, Judy, Henderson, Spears. Any moves? I fleece. Thanks to you. Yeah, phenomenal team. What the hell am I supposed to say here, my man? Very well constructed roster as well. If you think that Dell is startable rest of season, then at that point, one of the wide receivers is a viable trade piece. In reality, if we can sell Dell and Breece Hall and go get to a running back that you like in a better offense, then sure, let's do it. But by no means do we have to do anything here. Obviously, you were sitting with a phenomenal team as is. Now, Alex says 12-team PPR, 9-0. Hell yes. Hurts, Burrow, Pollard, both Lions running backs. Stevenson, St. Brown, Chase, Keenan, Dell, Quentin, Kelsey, McBride. Big fan. Appreciate you, my friend. And yeah, phenomenal team. Super happy to see it. And I know it's boring. Assuming it's a 1 quarterback format, we probably want to sell either Hurts or Burrow, right? Now you do have Burrow fully healthy. Yeah, Burrow is someone that we can start every single week, regardless of matchup going forward. If you really wanted to go through, and you really wanted to move off of Jalen Hurts and roll with Burrow because we had the Chase stack, you can. Maybe if you wanted to send, say, Jalen Hurts and Jahmyr Gibbs and go get, Travis Etienne, I'd probably rather keep Hurts and send Burrow in that deal, assuming it's a 4-point passing touchdown format. 6-point passing touchdown league, Burrow, Hurts are about the same. Now, Thundercat coming out saying, 10-team full BBR, 6-3. Herbert, Stroud, Bijan, Stevenson, Pacheco, Cook, A.J. Brown, Thielen, Myers, Andrews, Gabe Davis. Any advice? It's interesting, right? Because now you have Stroud and Jefferson. Stroud and Herbert. We don't necessarily know where we stand in terms of who we're starting from week to week perspective. Is it based off matchups? They're not in the Jalen Hurts tier. They're not in the Mahomes tier. So I don't know if we can confidently say the other team, let's go through and let's sell one of these guys and just roll with one rest of season. I think if you wanted, you could hold on to both. And we could look to just play the matchups. If you were going to look to sell a quarterback, you'd be selling him with Stevenson for an upgrade at RB. If you were going to be making a move. Now, Gabe says 10-team double flex. Mahomes, Tyreek, Puka, Saquon Kamara, Andrews, Kincaid, Ramondre, Etienne, Palmer, Gabe Davis, Watson. Thinking about offering a running back or a tight end to go get an upgraded receiver. I would be selling a tight end way before I would be a running back here. If we have Andrews and Kincaid, I mean, I love what we have from Kincaid, right? Kincaid's a top 5 tight end in my mind rest of season. But, I mean, we don't really need him here. And we're not super pumped to go through and throw a tight end in the flex spot. So I'd probably rather go through and take Dalton Kincaid and send him with another wide receiver on this team, such as Gabe Davis, and just go pivot to a wide receiver that we would feel very comfortable starting. There's that low-end wide receiver 1 rest of season. Now, Milo coming out saying 10-team full BBR offered Tua and Devontae Adams for Mahomes. The team is Mahomes, Stroud, CMC, Gibbs, Kamara, Kyron, Waddle, Puka, Rice. I'm fine if we decide to go through and look to sell a quarterback. I just don't necessarily know if this accomplishes anything for us. We're getting another quarterback in return and getting someone that maybe is not like a super big deal one way or another. So I'd say, no, we're probably not doing this deal. I am fine with the idea behind it. I'd rather just sell like Stroud for Adams straight up. Calvin says 12-team BBR single flex, 5 and 4. We have Allen, Diggs, Lamb, JT Gibbs, AJ Achane, Laporta, Taysom. Trade Lamb for Eckler and Devonta Smith. Then trade a running back for T. Higgins. Lamb for Eckler and Smith. I think we can make this move if you want. I have been thinking about this a bit. I'm interested to know what y'all think in the live chat. But there is that outside chance that the injury to Dallas Goedert ends up actually giving you a bump up for Devonta Smith's target share rest of season. So that is something we have to be thinking about here, at least keep in the back of our mind. So I think it's a fair deal. If you want to, you can. Trustlog says trade Collins for Addison and Dell. Hell yeah, we're going to be doing this, my man. I mean, Collins, Dell, pretty damn close. We're getting Addison for free. I think you can. Demon says, have BBR 3 and 6. It's a 10-team double flex league. We have Lamar, CMC, Jacobs, HN, Bijan, Herbert, Ayuk, Evans, Ridley, Rice, Downs. Any moves, I'll be in 8th place. Ooh. I mean, I think that if we are in 8th place, we need to be going through and doing what we can to just go through and sell long-term upside in the form of these rookie wide receivers to get points in this lineup right now. So, I mean, if you could go through, if you could sell maybe like Rice, Downs in a package and get an upgrade elsewhere, I think that makes sense. Shelby says traded Gibbs for Debo. What do you think? I think it's a fair deal dependent on your team in a half BBR format. Full BBR league, I probably would prefer Gibbs. I'm Johnny Days says 7-2 defending champ 12-team BBR Dynasty League. Single flex, we have Hurts, Saquon, Jones, Hunt, Ford, Moss, Adams, Cup, Debo, Palmer, Gallup, Kittle, Schultz. So definitely a Dynasty team that's kind of all in here. Trade Cup in two future seconds for Jacobs and Terry McLaurin. What are your thoughts? Thank you. Thank you, my friend. So the second round picks, not worth a ton. This is a 1 QB Dynasty League. Cup versus Jacobs rest of season. I think that we're actually probably going to go ahead and, I mean, Jacobs is extremely young. Jacobs like the same age as Najee. He came out of Alabama at 20 years old in 2019. Cup actually was very old in that 2017 draft class. So Cup's 30. Like they're like 4 or 5 years apart with their age. So it's not as easy as you would think here. The second round picks for McLaurin also makes sense. I think it is a fair deal, and it's up to you. I think it's a fair deal, and it's up to you. Typically, we say that, you're not really in a spot to be trading away someone like Cooper Kupp on a contending team. But you make an argument Jacobs is just as viable as a piece on a contending roster, right? Now, Dawson says lost Waller due to injury. Do we take Auden or Taysom? We're going to go Taysom Hill, my friend. We've been reluctant to say it for a while now. I think we just have to throw in the towel. We just have to say, play Taysom. And do we go Jahan Dotson to fill the bench spot for Joshua Palmer? Appreciate you so much, my man. Thank you for everything. And then, yes, we will pick up Dotson off the waiver wire with Curtis Samuel banged up. If Samuel comes back in, will be a little bit of a tougher situation, though. Now, Mr. Ling Lang Jr. says, trade Henry for Pollard. We have Eckler, Bijan, Gibbs. If it is a full PPR format, probably yes, in a full PPR league. Now, 416 Hendricks says, trade Saquon for Mixon in a 10-team full PPR format. Very close. I would ask for another piece added on, but obviously you will have Mixon in just a much better offense in general. Now, Jeff says, sorry, ran out of space. Thank you again for all the tips, man. Been a fun season regardless. The new team is Kyler, H.M. Montgomery, Jefferson, Lamb, Waddle, Ferguson. So I do really like the new team. I don't like starting Taysom in a flex, though. Yeah, I'd say the flex spots are just a little bit questionable. But yeah, thank you so much for always hanging out with us, my man. Now, Andrew says 12-team BBR 4 and 5. Stroud, Kyler, CMC, Walker, Warren, Khalil, Charbonnet, Waddle, Olave, Pitts, London, Dotson, JSN, Kincaid, Ferguson, need 2. Get off of Kenneth Walker. Want to upgrade at RB2. I understand the thought process, my friend, so I want to be understandable. I'm sorry, I don't know how to put this. I understand where you're coming from, but right now is not the time to go through and sell Kenneth Walker. Coming off a horrendous matchup, it will be a much better spot this next week against Washington. So I think you can go ahead. I think that you can wait until at least after the Washington game if you were going to try to sell him. But Rawlings, longtime member of the flock, says Etienne, Eckler, Henderson, Charbonnet, Roschon, Olave, Hopkins, Amari, Hollywood, London, Dell, JSN, Kincaid at tight ends, 12-team full BBR, I'm 6 and 3. Should I move any wide receivers for a running back in the Najee Javonte tier to add depth? Definitely not going to be looking at the Najee range. Javonte maybe is a little bit of a different story. But yeah, if you wanted to go through, if you wanted to send Hollywood Brown, Drake London, Tank Dell, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, when we have so many of these wide receiver depth pieces, I think it does make a lot of sense to balance us out and for us to go out there and get in someone like Javonte Williams. Najee Harris, on the other hand, really, I'm never going to want to start this guy. It's probably not. Now, Greg Reese, another longtime member of the flock, saying, tired of this season, 10-team, 6-point passing touchdown. We have Tua, Bijan, Walker, Tyreek, Pittman, Thielen, Kincaid, JT, Ridley, James Cook, JSN, Javonte, Laporta. Started 5-1, lost 3 in a row, lost a guy with 5 players on bye. Tua and Tyreek on bye now. We need some help. Brutal spot, my friend. Really, we ride or die by the Miami Dolphins, right? So when the Dolphins are just absolutely destroying early in the season, we are going to continue to go out there and we are going to dominate. Whereas when they slow down, then we will slow down. So we're living and dying by him. Past few weeks, I understand, have been a little bit tough. Now, with that being said, still a team with a ton of depth, right? I mean, you are sitting here and we can still start Bijan Walker at running back. We can still start Pittman Thielen at wide receiver. We can still throw JT there in the flex. This is still a very strong roster. The only thing that I would say is if you wanted to go out there and if you wanted to make a move off of one of the tight ends, I think that could make a lot of sense, especially as we have Laporta already through his bye. I mean, obviously, both these guys are super strong options. You're really excited about having both Laporta and Kincaid. Both these guys are top 5 tight ends rest of season. But if you wanted to sell, say, Dalton Kincaid when Sam Laporta has already gone through his bye, and maybe package together Dalton Kincaid and I don't know, maybe James Cook and go get a viable upgrade at running back. That could be a move we look to make. Maybe long-term if you want to do it with Kenneth Walker if we can, but just going back to what we were talking about previously, it's going to be very difficult to sell Walker coming off a week where he just had the horrendous matchup. We're going forward, I think it will be a much, much better spot. Now, Crystal, happy to see it says 12-team full PBR. Got offered A.J. Brown, Eckler, Adams for my CMC Hollywood Kyler. So give me CMC over A.J. Brown. Give me Eckler over Hollywood. Give me Adams over Kyler, especially when we have Jalen Hurts. So honestly, I'd say 9 times out of 10, any trades regarding CMC, I just laugh off. But this is a very fair trade. If you wanted to go through, if you wanted to trade CMC and essentially get back A.J. Brown, Austin Eckler, and a wide receiver upgrade on top of it. Like typically, I am just laughing off the CMC trades. This is one of the very few CMC trades where I think you could go out there and make it if you would want. Mason says, should I trade Kincaid or Laporta for Achane? If you have both, I'd be fine sending Kincaid for Achane. John says 16-team BBR was 2-4, now 5-4. Hell yeah. Second overall in scoring. I own Logan Thomas and Luke Musgrave. Should we try to upgrade at tight end? We have Lamar, Brees, Warren, Diggs, Lamb, Deontay, Addison, Judy, Michael Thomas, McKinnon, and Charbonnet. Phenomenal team. And I'm sure like if you hang out in these live streams, you're going to hear me say over and over and over again, oh, let's go trade for a better tight end. Let's go trade for a better tight end. Let's go trade for a better tight end. A lot of times that's whenever we're looking at people sending us a 10-team league where you start 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, right? Where the wide receiver depth, depth in general just simply is not going to matter. Here it's going to be a little bit of a different story. If it's a 16-team format, the depth does matter a considerable amount. So I would say I'm actually probably just going to punt tight end. I think you just get by playing Logan Thomas and Luke Musgrave. I think where we're strong with our wide receiver depth and our running back production here is actually what I'm focus in on in a 16-team build. Gregory says, also have Stroud on the bench, cap it off. Thanks, bro. Thank you. Maybe we could look to sell Stroud next week as well, but not going to be looking to sell Stroud this week whenever we have the Jalen Hurts bye, right? Let's start Stroud this week and see what we can get next. Shelby says, who's a decent running back target for Debo? Happy BR, 8-1, love you. Love you. Let me go ahead and let me pull up what we have regarding the community rankings with Debo Samuel currently. So this is on flogfantasy.com. This is free on flogfantasy.com. So when you pull up the rankings, it is going to, let me move that. It is going to prompt you with 4 players to rank briefly. You just go through and say, oh, okay, well, I'll take Ramondre at the top here. Then we'll go Nico, and we'll go Kirk, and then Nico, then Ridley. We'll submit it. And then we take on flogfantasy.com that data point and we accumulate it into all these community rankings to give you an idea of actual community values at this moment. And yeah, then we've had over 100,000 entries into these community rankings. So if we're going to be looking at what we have with Debo Samuel currently, Deebo Samuel is here at 62 overall. The running backs that are directly ahead of Deebo Samuel are Kyron Williams, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White, Aaron Jones, Raheem Mostert. So if you were looking to sell Deebo, that's going to be about the range that you are looking at. And then Jared says trade Pittman for Amadre, full PPR. If you are desperate for a running back, you can. I have so much Pittman. I didn't really draft Amadre, so I'm very biased in that. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Thank you so much for sticking with us, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not done so already, please go down there, subscribe to the channel. We're in a live stream every single day until 2024. And if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, you can find that link in the live chat in the description in the comment section. Promo code FLOCK will get you a 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers, and the Bryce Young special pick'em more than less than half a total yard. So make sure you take advantage of that, ladies and gentlemen. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much for everything, and I really hope I get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow night.